Let me tell you about a kind of fear. Not the fear of war, not the fear of hunger, but the specific suffocating fear of not knowing if your phone is tapped, of looking over your shoulder before you speak, of watching what you say at dinner because you don't know who is listening. That is the fear Sani Abacha installed in Nigeria, not occasionally, not in certain places, but everywhere, all the time, for 5 good solid years. A country of 100 million people living in collective silence because one man had made it clear that speaking too loudly could get you killed. And he meant it. This is the story of Sani Abacha and what he did to the most powerful country in Africa.
This regime will be firm, humane, and decisive. We will not condone nor tolerate any act of indiscipline. Any attempt to test our will be decisively dealt with.
First, you need to understand something about Abacha. He did not come to power suddenly. He did not emerge from nowhere. He had been inside Nigeria's military system for decades, watching, learning, waiting. And every time Nigeria had a crisis, Abacha was somewhere nearby. Not always in front, but always present, always useful, always dangerous. Sani Abacha was born on September 20th, 1943 in Kano, in the north of Nigeria. He joined the military young, trained, rose steadily, and developed a reputation early, not as a brilliant strategist, not as an inspiring leader, but as a man who was completely unreadable, cold, calculated, impossible to predict. Officers who served with him spoke of a man who revealed nothing, who sat in meetings and watched, whose silence was more frightening than other men's dread. He first came to national attention on December 31st, 1983, the coup that removed President Shehu Shagari. Abacha was the one who went on national radio and announced to Nigeria that the military had taken over. His voice, flat, controlled, emotionless. He was 40 years old and already the face of a coup. He would go on to serve under Buhari's military government, then under Babangida, always there, always powerful, always surviving. While others around him rose and fell, Abacha remained. Under General Ibrahim Babangida's government, Nigeria made a promise, a transition to democracy. Elections would be held, the military would step back, Nigeria would return to civilian rule. And on June 12, 1993, Nigerians voted in what many observers described as the freest election Nigeria had ever conducted. The winner was a Yoruba businessman from the southwest, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, alias MKO Abiola, a man who had won convincingly across ethnic and religious lines, north and south, Muslim and Christian. Nigeria had done something remarkable, and then Babangida annulled the election. He just cancelled it, threw the results away, and Nigeria erupted. Protests, strikes, international condemnation. Babangida installed an interim national government under Ernest Shonekan, a transitional arrangement that pleased nobody and lasted exactly 83 days. Because on November 17th, 1973, Sani Abacha walked into Shonekan's office and told him to resign. Shonekan signed the resignation letter and Abacha took power. Just like that. No guns needed, no bullets fired, no dramatic announcement. Just the quiet, cold authority of a man that everyone in that room was already afraid of. Nigeria thought it had seen military rule before. It had not seen anything like this. The first thing Abacha did was dismantle everything. He dissolved the National Assembly, banned political parties, suspended the constitution, removed elected governors and replaced them with military administrators. Every structure that could have checked his power was gone within weeks.
The following decisions come into immediate effect. The interim national government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. The two political parties are hereby dissolved.
And then he turned his attention to the people. His secret police, the SSS, were everywhere. Journalists were arrested, newspapers were shut down, editors went to prison. Human rights activists disappeared into detention without trial. Phone lines were monitored. Informants were everywhere. Nigeria became a country where the wrong conversation, in the wrong place, with the wrong person listening, could end your life. The activists who dared to resist paid enormous prices. Moshood Abiola himself, the man who had won the June 12 election, declared himself president in 1994. Abacha arrested him, threw him in prison, where he would remain until he died in 1998, under circumstances that had never been fully explained, on the very day he was meeting with American diplomats who were pressing for his release. But perhaps the moment that showed the world exactly who Sani Abacha was came on November 10, 1995. Ken Saro-Wiwa, a writer, an activist, a man who had spent years fighting for the rights of the Ogoni people in the Niger Delta, whose land was being destroyed by oil extraction, whose communities were being poisoned, who had done nothing more than speak, write, organize, protest peacefully. Abacha had him arrested, tried by a specially convened military tribunal, a tribunal with no independence, no genuine legal process, found guilty. And on that November morning, Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 other Ogoni activists were hanged. The world was furious. Nigeria was expelled from the Commonwealth.
Commonwealth heads of government, with the exception of the Gambia and Solomon Islands, agreed to suspend Nigeria from membership of the Commonwealth.
International sanctions followed, but Abacha didn't blink. He didn't care. He never cared. Because Abacha was not governing Nigeria, he was looting it. And the looting was on a scale that still staggers the imagination. Why Nigerians were living under fear and repression? Why the economy was collapsing? Why oil revenues that should have built schools and hospitals were disappearing? Abacha and his inner circle were stealing, systematically, industrially. Money was moved through a network of front companies and foreign bank accounts. Switzerland, Luxembourg, Jersey, Liechtenstein, billions of dollars, not millions, I mean billions of US dollars. Let me give you the actual numbers. In 2000, Switzerland returned approximately $700 million in Abacha loot to Nigeria, the largest single repatriation at the time. In 2014, another $480 million was recovered from accounts linked to the Abacha family, also from Switzerland. In 2021, the United States, Jersey, and the United Kingdom jointly returned approximately $23 million in stolen assets. In 2022, the United States returned over $53 million more. And in 2023, another agreement was reached to return hundreds of millions sitting in accounts across multiple jurisdictions. The total estimates of what Abacha stole range between $3 and $5 billion. Of that, Nigeria has recovered just over $2 billion so far, which means somewhere out there, in accounts and structures too complex to fully unravel, Nigerian money is still sitting, stolen by a man who has been dead since 1998. And the irony that caused deepest, some of the repatriated funds were themselves mismanaged or allegedly stolen again after returning to Nigeria. The looting of the loot in a country still struggling to keep its light on. And through all of it, Abacha was constructing something else, a plan to transform himself from a military ruler to elected civilian president. He arranged all 5 of Nigeria's registered political parties to adopt him as their sole presidential candidate. All 5, the same man, an election where only one person was running for everyone. Nigeria was supposed to watch this happen and call it democracy. But then, something happened that nobody planned. On June 8, 1998, Sani Abacha died in his bedroom in Aso Villa. He was 54 years old. The official cause was a heart attack, but Nigeria, being Nigeria, The rumors never stopped. Some said he was poisoned, some said it was a divine verdict, some said it was the accumulated weight of everything he had done. Nobody knows for certain. What is certain is that Nigeria exhaled, collectively. A country that had been holding its breath for 5 years, finally breathed again. His successor, General Sani Abacha, moved quickly, released political prisoners, began a genuine transition to democracy, and in 1999, Nigeria had elections. Olusegun Obasanjo became president. For the first time in 16 years, Nigeria had a civilian government, and MKO Abiola, the man who won June 12, who represented the democratic future Nigeria almost had, died in prison, never sworn in, never recognized while he was still alive. June 12 is now a national holiday in Nigeria, Democracy Day, named in his honor, but he never lived to see it. So here's what I want you to take away from the story. Abacha was not just a thief, he was a system, a carefully constructed machinery of fear, silence, and extraction. He took a country with enormous potential and squeezed it for 5 years while the world watched and largely looked away, because Nigeria's oil kept flowing and the money kept moving into accounts that powerful people in powerful countries were helping to manage. Abacha didn't steal $5 billion alone. He had help. Banks that asked no questions, government that imposed sanctions with one hand and processed his money with the other. He ruled through fear. He died in his bed, and Nigeria is still counting the cost of 5 years under the general it feared most. If the story made you think, there are more like it on this channel. Real history, broken down simply. Subscribe and don't miss the next one.